Amazing. Well, welcome to everyone, and I'm so thrilled that you're here for today's webinar, and there'll be maybe a few people jumping in, but we'll just let them in as they come along. But most of you know me, I'm Danny Ferrier, and it's my absolute pleasure to be sharing with you today a beautiful model that is going to help with the communication with building the abilities within your teams, and it's a really great leadership model that really transformed the way that I develop my leaders, and I'm really glad to be sharing it with you. So I'd love to just do a little bit of a wrap round. Would you like to just say your name and what it is that intrigued you about coming to this webinar today that is all about feedback? Would someone like to get the ball rolling?
Well, maybe I start. So yeah, my name is Alex, and I'm working for Frisco down here at Port Nelson. And I'm the business owner of Frisco with my husband, actually, together. And I've started my leader coach training with Danny a few months ago, and just, yeah, I love it and I want to learn more.
Thanks, Alex. Who would like to go next?
I'm happy to jump in next if you want. My name's Sue. I'm, as you can probably see from my background, from Third Arm Admin. So we're a bookkeeping practice, Wellington and Hamilton based at the moment. So, and yeah, always looking to continue learning.
Thanks, Sue.
Yeah, nice. I'm Tim, owner of Premier Insulation in Nelson. And yeah, I think for me was coming from a trade background. I've learned to be very practical, hands-on. I'm good at fixing things, building things, but people are a bit of a different thing for me. So I felt the leadership side of things was key for me. So jumped on board with Danny, I think it was late last year, I believe.
Thanks, Tim. Kylie.
Hello. I'm Kylie. I am the operations manager for Premier Insulation. So I'm bossing boys around, and it's always good to know how to do it properly, I guess.
They always need somebody to keep them under control, don't they?
Yeah.
Awesome, Kylie. Full power to you.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And it's really great that you've all identified that, you are here to learn, and we're all on this journey together, growing and developing, and how important it is to have these conversations, because there's such intangible skills, and maybe today there's just one little thing that resonates that changes the way that you're looking at giving feedback currently and having those conversations, and that could be the difference that makes the difference. So I'd just love to invite you to participate as much as you can today, and don't be afraid of getting something wrong. Just give it a red hot go, as I say, because I know we are just here to learn, and I really love engaging and asking questions. And sometimes I can get a little bit excited and go a little bit too fast. So I'll just excuse my overall enthusiasm for a second. Sometimes it can freak a few people out, but I'm okay with that, And then afterwards, I'd love to share with you an amazing opportunity to take this model a step further and to be able to really put it into practice with me in a conversation. So can I get a thumbs up that that's a really good way to start this webinar?
Perfect.
Lovely. So what we're going to be talking about today is the ability to give feedback and to develop the person that you're working with into their full potentiality. So I wonder if you might share with me, what are some of the massive benefits of being able to develop your team members into their potential? Would you like to come off mute and share?
I think being able to develop team members allows them to come into their own, I guess, identify for themselves where their strengths lie, and well, yeah, have more of a feeling of contributing to the overall goal of the company and being part of it, self-satisfaction for the team.
Yeah, really well said. That self-satisfaction is so important these days, eh? We're not supposed to be those little robot humans on a, what do they call, the manufacturing line. It is important that people feel like they're part of something.
Mm.
Nice. Someone else like to share, what's another benefit? You just unmute there, Sue.
We're all sitting here in silence. It's, you can't change what you don't know about, probably, is the biggest thing for me. So if you're not aware that there's something going on that needs to be changed, then you're not aware that there's a change required. So
yeah, exactly. And creating that space to get curious about what is going on for the person, eh?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, awesome. And what is what happens when you don't give feedback? What is the negative consequence there?
You don't change. You don't know where you're going wrong. You don't know how to benefit yourself or move forward.
Yeah, exactly, Kylie. What else is the negative consequence?
Don't they say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome?
Yeah, Einstein, right? Yeah, exactly, Sue. And I don't know if some of you have noticed as well that in New Zealand, it's particularly hard for people to give feedback. And that's also a cultural thing of not wanting to rock the boat or step on people's toes. Has anyone else noticed that?
Yeah. People say they want feedback, but then, yeah, I don't know whether it's the delivery or the whatever. They're not, so they actually, yeah, they want the good feedback, but probably not the bad.
Yeah, exactly. I was on a call one time with some female leaders, and they described feedback in a really beautiful way. And they said that when you break down the word feedback, the word feed means nourishment, and the word back is reciprocation. So when you look at it like that, it's like reciprocal nourishment. And when you look at nature, and everything in life is either green and growing or it's ripe and rotting, it's dead. And so to be able to give each other that reciprocal nourishment is helping us all thrive as a species. I had a client who had a really big challenge around giving feedback, and she just said, I can't give feedback. It hurts. It's such a weird feeling within me. And it was really interesting because when we talked about her role as a leader and how important it was for her to have that outcome focused thinking, to not be thinking about the moment of that really uncomfortable feeling, but thinking about the overall outcome of the business and the consequence of not giving the outcome, not getting to the outcomes, how important it is to be able to, what is the word? It's basically allowing yourself to feel uncomfortable, knowing that it's going to be uncomfortable to get yourself to the outcomes. Because that's what we're doing as leaders. We're moving everyone towards the direction of the outcome. And actually, really interestingly, once I unpacked a little bit more where this feeling came from, it was because she had never gotten feedback with love in her life. It was always criticism and judgment. And when we talked about her family situation and growing up, it was because nobody took the time to actually see her potential and care. And therefore, she felt like feedback was always going to be with an element of criticism. So that's not what we're going to do today. Today, we're going to talk about how to do it in a way that really emotionally engages your team members and gets them to take it on board, because they can feel that you're doing it for them, because they understand that it's about their growth and that you're doing it from a place of love rather than a place of criticism. So what is the real gift in being able to give feedback with love? Someone share with me.
I guess, you motivate people by giving good feedback. Yeah, basically tell them like where you want to see improvement and stuff, and then motivate them to become next level as well, and to move further up and to grow.
Yeah, exactly. That it's motivation, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the interesting thing about feedback is sometimes you can give someone feedback and it really hurts them because they're defensive about it, and they've got two options. They can either hate you for it or they can prove you wrong.
Mm.
And either way, as the leader, you're letting them have that opportunity to prove you wrong, to say, you know what, I'll show you how I can do this. And that is a force to be reckoned with, right? That's the excitement that you plant. And if they're not ready for that feedback, if it was too much for them, that's their journey as well. And maybe it was something they really needed to hear. And on a deep level, that's why it hurt so much, was because they knew it was true. And that's why they end up retaliating in that moment. Does that make sense?
Mm.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm. So does anyone have any examples of somebody, a time when they've been given feedback and it really wasn't at all what you wanted to hear?
I can't think of an example personally, but a family member recently described a journey that she had from a young girl. Her stepfather had treated her particularly badly and kicked her out of home at about 15 or 16. And excuse this comment, but it's how it went. He said to her that she'd be nothing but a prostitute. That's all she'd be good for her life. And she took that and she proved him wrong. And now, I'm going to say 35 years later, now she is the manager of a very, very large real estate company in Auckland. And her motivation for that growth was to prove that person wrong. So pretty shitty sort of an example with the situation, but I think that's what came through for me anyway, not proving somebody wrong.
Yeah, exactly, Tim. I think, yes, that goes back to that lighting of the fire, that real moment when she made a decision within her that something needed to change. Yeah. And that's the exciting thing as leaders, is you can be the real catalyst for someone to wake up and decide to take responsibility. And it's such a beautiful time when they're able to see within themselves all of their potential. So what we're going to do is I'll explain to you the model that I'd like to teach today. It's called the TOCOCA Model. Did everyone get the PDF email? Does anyone? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
So you can either have it open in front of you on one side of your screen. But this model was developed by Sharon Pearson at the Coaching Institute because she started to notice commonalities in the conversations that she was having with her team members. And this model was so clear because it helps you to understand a benchmark, and you have a structure for the conversations that you're having. So TOCOCA is T is for trust. Then we've got the agenda, and you can see that in front of you, but I'm just doing it for the video as well. Then we're going into the challenges of that person taking action. Then you can also talk to them about what are the opportunities, and then getting a little bit clearer on what are the commitments that they're making. And then, of course, as the leader, the accountability. Manoli from Malik and McLean calls this closing the loop, the accountability. And as leaders, it's our responsibility to close the loop, to make sure that they're staying on track. And what I really love about this model as well is not only is it a model for the conversations that we're having, but people also have strengths and weaknesses based on this model. So for example, and I'm sure you've noticed this before, is when you're in a conversation with someone, they're really good at giving you objections of why they can't do the thing. Has anyone noticed that? 100 reasons why they can't. Yeah. Some people might be really trustworthy and in a really trusting position with you, but they don't know how to keep themselves accountable. We all know those people who chat, 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 no action. Then you've also got people that are great at big picture thinking and they can see all of the opportunities, but they also can't hit the rubber to the road. Does everyone know who I'm talking about? Have an example in your mind of these people? So within the spectrum, there's also variations of that, but you're able to not only use this model in your conversations, but use it to identify where that person's strengths and weaknesses are and keep that as a note in your case file after the first conversation. So that might be a little bit too advanced, but I'm just guessing that you guys can take that on board. Did that make sense so far? Yeah, awesome. So what we're going to do is we're going to break down the first 3 steps of the model, and we won't have enough time today to do all of them, but I'd really love to continue to talk about this model and share more on this model, so I can also let you know when we're going to unpack the next 3 steps. So, trust. Can someone share with me what is the consequence of not having trust in those conversations with your team members?
You're not going to get honesty.
Totally. Yeah, they won't feel like they can share with you, eh? What are the other consequences?
That you probably also don't get true real feedback. I mean, like for yourself, and yeah, that you don't find out what they really feel like, and yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And Alex, we talked about this the other day, you know, that psychological barrier. They're like, they just can't take anything on board if there's no trust there. They're just like, fuck, this is too much. Has everyone noticed that when you try to give someone feedback that's too much for them and we haven't taken time to build trust? And sometimes, you know, I could talk about trust all day and how important it is in the organization, but trust is literally the lifeblood of what it is that we're trying to create, because the way that I see it is if you don't have to worry about trust, how much more capacity you have to focus on other things instead. So in those conversations, if you take time and you really care about trust, and you don't just go straight into the conversation and be like, okay, Jim, you need to pick up your socks. That's going to get the psychological bear. No, defensiveness, you know. But if you really take the time to have the conversation and build it up from a place of love, share something that you have in common, ask them a few easier questions to gauge where they're at, all of this rapport building is creating trust. And the way that I love to help myself in my mind drop into trust is to ask myself, am I having this discussion out of fear or out of love? And I'll explain what I mean by that. If you're going into a development conversation with someone because you fear you're not going to hit your targets, because you fear that you made a bad hire with that person, because you fear that, you know, there's so many examples of how we could go into those conversations with fear. Versus if you go into that conversation with love and you just are there 100% for the person's development. And little Jimmy, who hasn't ever had a model in his entire life of someone who inspires him, has been dragging his feet, but you need to have a conversation with him about how much you care that they change. Does everyone get the difference? So when you go with an energy of love, how that just transforms the conversation. We're all on the same train so far? Nice. And there's a whole bunch of work that we need to do as leaders that I'm not going to go into to make sure that we're in the right place to be able to give love in that moment. And that's like making sure that we sleep and eat and look after our own well-being so that we're not buzzing around like a bat out of hell and then straight away we're into this development conversation, and then we're trying to connect with this person, but in our mind, we're just so busy. Can everyone relate to that?
Yeah, 100%.
So there's a bit of responsibility behind the scenes to make sure that you go, okay, I've had a big day and I've got this conversation coming up. I'm just going to take 10 minutes to have a cup of tea in the sun. So that kind of groundwork, if you will, helps set up the conversation for success. Pretty good point.
Mm.
And one little insider tip is that we have so much emotion held in our hearts. There's been so much study done on how our hearts are conscious. Yeah, I won't go into it. But basically, when you put your hand on your heart, do you feel better? Does everyone want to just try put your hand on your heart and notice what goes on in your body? And when you go into a conversation like this, maybe you're sitting in front of an employee that you've had a bit of conflict with, or you're there with somebody who you don't like very much. They're just not your kind of person, but you need them in your business. And so it's really easy to be in that headspace of ego to ego. And so in order to have a tool in your tool belt to drop into heart space, to be able to create that trust, put your hand on your heart. And it can feel a little bit weird at the beginning. The person's just like, why do they have their hand on their heart? But honestly, it's an incredible tool. And if you put your hand on your heart, take a breath, and then start the conversation, you're already winning. Loving it?
Yeah.
Awesome. So I'd love to know from you, what did you take away from that? What stood out? What's significant for you? Kylie's like, oh my God, that was such a great message. Share with me, what are you taking away?
Definitely felt like a calm through my body, through my torso, doing that.
Awesome.
Yeah, I definitely felt a lot calmer putting my, like when I did that, I didn't think it would do anything, to be honest, but it did. Yeah.
What about you, Sue? What did you take away from that?
Yeah, pretty similar, I guess. Just it's about kind of taking the minute, because we all are very guilty of rushing. We've got a lot to kind of do in any day, and very guilty of rushing around. And sometimes it can seem like, you know, this conversation is just one more conversation that I have to have, and so you kind of rush into it. Rather than kind of taking that moment to collect your thoughts and kind of be calm and then heading into it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's such an easy mistake to make with all of us because of the demands of 2023, and knowing that we have tools to be able to center ourselves before those conversations can be such a difference in the way that we're showing up as leaders. Wonderful. So the next point is making sure that we have a clear agenda. And the agenda is so important because we want to give the person in front of us certainty and buy-in to the conversation and help them understand what it is that we're there to achieve. And there's this really simple quote, and it's so simple that it blows my mind that it really helps me. And it's just that clear is kind. And I wonder if you can just intuit and understand that when your team members have any kind of ambiguity, when they're in the office with you and they don't really know what a development conversation even is, how important it is to share with them the agenda. Does everyone understand why that's important?
Yeah, for sure.
Totally. And when we are creating that agenda, that's a really great time to get really curious about what it is that you want to achieve together. And for those of you that work with me already, I'm sure you've noticed that in coaching sessions, I've said to you, what would be an outstanding outcome for today? And I say that because I want you to understand what you want to get out of it. It's not about me and what I want to get out of it. But when you're having a development conversation with a team member, you're deciding together what would be an outstanding outcome. So they might say, oh, I'd really like a plan to know how I can get promoted. And you're going to say, yeah, wonderful. Why don't we create a 90-day development program for you? And then at the end of the 90 days, we can come back and revisit that. Would that be a really good outcome for today? But you see how asking the question helps them with the buy-in? Does everyone see that? Yeah. And the thing is that when we decide the outcome together, we are moving from a place of you need to do this to them feeling like they're on board with their own development. And that helps them to continue to engage with you and show up on another level.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see in the breakdown in the sheet that I've given you, the PDF, that there's some elements to take into consideration there in the agenda. And we won't unpack them all today, but it just helps to give you clarity on what exactly it is that you need to be thinking about in the agenda piece. Cool?
Yeah, nice.
Okay. I'd love to know what is significant about having the agenda really clear with your team member. Would you like to add anything? Is there anything, comments that you'd like to make on top of that?
Just means no surprises, doesn't it? It means you both know what the purpose of you being there is, and you're both on the same page as to kind of, you know, what you're going to have that discussion about. It's kind of a bit of certainty, I guess.
Yeah, 100%. So certainty.
Yeah, it's kind of like putting the goalposts on the ground for that meeting or that get together, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. It's a good one, Kylie. Make sure you use lots of sports metaphors for your boys.
Yeah.
This is the goalpost, guys. Awesome. And, you know, having a model that does this really well, and I know with Tim and Alex, we talk about this a lot, is having somebody in your mind that you know does that really well. And especially for my clients, they love hanging out with me because I model to them how to have these conversations in my coaching. And it's easier to imagine how to do it when you've already got someone that you know who does it really well.
Yeah.
So I wonder, who do you know that sets a really clear agenda that helps you to have more certainty? Just have a wee think about a model or someone in your life. And just think about what it is that they do or who they are being as a person that gives you that feeling of certainty. And that can help you in those conversations as well. Would anyone like to share a model that they've got in their mind? Tim, I can see a big smile on your face.
I was just waiting for someone else. Yeah, I'll go. So for those that don't know, we're a franchise operation, and our franchisor, the CEO Rob, he's particularly good. Even just looking at these steps that you've got noted down in this PDF, Danny, it's like he builds the trust. He makes it very clear at the outset of the discussion. I just phone up to have a bit of a chat about what it is, so it like sets the stage, and then goes through. It pretty follows the same thing, really. And I know that Rob, at some stage in the past, was the manager for the Warriors, so he's well versed with, you know, team type situations and getting the best out of people.
Awesome. So isn't it great that you felt that he was really effective, but now that you've got the model, you can see why he's effective. Yeah, awesome, Tim. Does anyone else want to share a model or someone that they know that does these conversations really well?
I've got a couple of examples of people that probably don't, but
would you like to share that too?
Someone that has.
It's just people that are rip, tear and bust, really, and you can see when they go into a meeting, because so we're a bookkeeping practice and we do bookkeeping for lots of small businesses. As part of that, sometimes we get called in to kind of be the support person, you know, when there's uncomfortable discussions have to happen, you know, for clients, and so yeah, you do see the good, the bad and the ugly, I guess. And so there is, yeah, people that just kind of rip in, say exactly what they've got to say. They kind of don't wait for any feedback. They don't you know, check that the person they're talking to, you know, is even kind of aware of why they're there, or all sorts of things. So yeah, as I say, there's plenty of I've got plenty of bad examples, but not too many examples of ones where it's done really well.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Sue. And I love how you've said rip and bust, because that's the energy that a lot of managers and owners have, because they just want to get it done. And it's not done with grace, and it's that real ticking the box mentality, like feedback given.
Which you get as well, though, right? Like, I totally understand that. We've all got so much to do in this life. I kind of get how it is just seen as another thing to do, but you're kind of not getting the outcome that you want to get if you don't go about it the right way. So
yeah, 100%. And I think it's really diving into, it's not what you do, but it's how effective you are at doing it. And the difference that it makes when you are able to elevate yourself to not just go into that automatic mechanism of like, boss, give you feedback, but knowing that with this information and with this understanding, you're able to do that in a way that is graceful, and do that in a way that is going to be really taken on board by the team member.
I think, I mean, I feel like there would be a lot of bad examples, but I kind of feel like, I mean, obviously I'm here today because I'd like to learn more about all these things. So by trying to apply all the tools you all the time give me, that also the response, so like in our business, like with my husband and business partner, like he probably was one of those not really good examples on how to do things like that. And by me trying to use these tools and to show and explain them why they would be useful, I definitely also can feel, you know, it's coming back. So like if you actually apply it and use it, that you also start getting actually a response on that with similar feedback, if that makes sense, you know, kind of like you apply it and people adapt to it and come back in a similar way to you. So there is improvement.
Yeah, awesome, Alex. And I love that.
Like, yeah.
Oh, sorry, what did you say in the end there?
Yeah, if it makes sense, you know, like kind of like what you know, like what goes on comes around, you know. So like you start actually doing something in a certain way, and then people actually start to react in a better way.
Yeah, even your husband is loving the feedback these days.
Right.
Yeah, and that's such a good point, that when you move from just being ambitious, when it's like, let's just get this business off the ground and you want to make money, and it's like so normal because that's how most people start a business. And you are able to step into that meaning behind the business, to being the business owner that doesn't just strive for the ambition of, you know, the wealth or whatever it is that they're after, but are able to truly see that the behavior that we're displaying, that the quality of person that we are being is really affecting the lives of the team, and taking small and consistent action to better and improve ourselves, how much more that adds to ourselves as leaders watching other people thrive. Is everyone quite excited about knowing this model? Like, can everyone intuit how powerful it is to have this tool in your tool belt when you're having that next conversation?
I'm nervous about practicing it, but excited about the concept of the outcome. What are you laughing at, Kylie?
Well, I've got a proposal for you. At the end of the call, I'll let you know how we can practice it together. And so moving on to the next step, which is the challenges. So I wonder if someone can share what is the real benefit that we have when we are able to dive deep into the challenges that are stopping that person from taking action?
You get growth.
You get growth. Awesome, Kylie. What else?
Understanding.
Yeah. Yeah, well said. Anything else?
Maybe respect for the other person. Perhaps if you're receiving it in a good way.
Yeah, exactly. And that even just opening up the conversation of like, share with me what is the challenge about achieving this. You're taking the time to care, eh?
Mm.
Yeah.
You're kind of building that trust as well, aren't you?
Yeah, definitely. Nice. And I wonder if you've noticed as well that people's minds are like spaghetti, you know, and it's pretty normal. And you've got team members who want to do well, but they have spaghetti in their mind. And so when you talk to them about a challenge, you know, what is the challenge of you achieving this goal? Then they'll say, oh, everything. Or they'll say, oh, it's too hard. And they'll put it in sort of a black and white category. Or, oh, so-and-so always does this, so I can't talk to them about it. Or that never happens for me. Has anyone noticed that when you're having development conversations, that it's this real dichotomous kind of thinking? And the reason is because they aren't really clear on what the challenge actually is, and it's really normal to just blow it up. And so
there's also people though that it's never their challenge, it's always somebody else's problem.
Yeah, exactly. Like that, I won't be able to do it because insert excuse here.
Yeah, because. Or,
exactly.
Yeah, but.
Yeah, but exactly. So that's why this challenges conversation is so imperative, to do it with a sense of curiosity and specificity. When we get really specific on what those challenges are, we can help them see that the challenge isn't as big as they originally thought it was. You with me? Mm-hmm. So being able to, you know, let's say that one of their challenges / excuses is somebody who won't be able to work with that person. And instead of just buying into that limit as the leader and saying, oh, okay, well, we'll put you with someone else then. With that element of curiosity, we're able to say to them, wow, I'd really love to know more about that. Share with me how specifically you feel that you can't work with them. And maybe it's because they've got bad odor. Maybe it's because they always talk down to them. But we don't know that until we get super curious. But in that person's mind, they've put that person in the too hard basket and they don't want to work with them. And that is the challenge. But when we're able to unpack this, when we're able to identify what is specifically the challenge, then we are able to create solutions around that because it's more manageable. Yeah? Cool. What else was I going to say about this? Oh yeah, so essentially knowing that when we have challenges, that there are small manageable steps to get there. And when we can break down the challenges into small steps, they can become the action plan for our team member. But in small manageable steps. Maybe it's having a 10-minute conversation with the person that you want them to work with that they have a problem with. Maybe it's them going, okay, well, I can't do that right now, but what if we revisit this again in 2 weeks' time, and then we see how you're feeling about it? And the challenges had been identified, so you as the leader are able to support them to slowly overcome the challenge. Yeah. So I'd love to know, what are you taking away from that segment? What stood out to you?
Baby steps. Put it all down into little bits and pieces. I mean, like, yeah, so that you can step by step take them to where you want to get them, or us or company, or like, yeah, their challenge, whatever it is.
Totally. Yeah, turning those into little mini goals. Yeah. What else are you taking away from that?
Along pretty well identical lines, I'd noted down bite-sized chunks. It's about trying to get all this, like you say, all this spaghetti, and trying to just find out the important parts of that spaghetti and putting them into bite-sized chunks that can be addressed easily. They can be understood. Takes away the cloud and the whirlwind.
Totally. And the other thing is that quite often that person, it's a real experience for them. They truly have a big challenge. And when we are sort of minimizing their challenge in a way like, oh, just get over it, you'll be able to work with him, it'll be fine, which is a very common thing, like just get over it, that's going to bring that psychological bear back, because they can't just get over it. Like, it's a real emotion that they're experiencing. And when we are able to take the time to unpack truly what is going on for them and ask them, what is really the challenge here? That brings them into that next level of being able to see with clarity the small steps that they need to take. So I'd love to know from everyone, what is your key learning from today so far? What's the biggest takeaway that you know that you're going to put into action within your leadership?
I think for me, it's being more clear and concise about the actual agenda. Yeah.
Nice. And New Zealanders love using fluffy words, don't we? Maybe possibly we could potentially, if you really want to.
I think I got the same thing, Kylie, was about the clarity of the agenda of, what is it we're sitting down to talk about? It's just clarifying those things.
Awesome.
Yeah, become aware and ask questions. Yeah.
What about you, Sue? What are you taking away from today?
Same, really. Exactly the same.
Wonderful. That's so great, everyone. I really love that you've been able to understand the importance of that clarity, that agenda, and being able to see from a bigger picture view, have the understanding of it, so that when you go into those meetings, you'll start practicing it, and you start practicing it sort of inconsistently because the awareness is there. And then after you start doing it a little bit more consistently, and once you have then done it on purpose, it starts to become your natural go-to. And when it's your natural go-to, that's when people will really start to change their perception of you, because they'll think, oh, Kylie is always really clear with me. I always know what I'm expecting when I have those conversations with her. And that level of certainty that they have within themselves, that they know what to expect from you, creates, well, it's just the next level of trust. They don't have to worry anymore about if you're going to spring something on them out of nowhere.
Mm.
And the thing is, guys, it's such a beautiful way for us to be able to build our trust within ourselves when we're having these development conversations. Because as we start to continue to grow ourselves, then we develop our personality as a leader. And then we start to become that tenacious leader that is consistently hitting those benchmarks, that is taking action every single time because it seems like the next logical thing, because it's already ingrained in your mind. And when you get to that next stage of having a system in place where, for example, and you can do this if you want to, you can use this checklist before you go into a meeting and check off afterwards all of the things that you did in that meeting. That's a beautiful system that you can create for yourself. And once you've got that system, you're able to get to that next level of knowing what to expect and beating your own personal best every single time. It becomes a challenge for yourself as the leader to continue to show up and really allow yourself to see it. Sue.
Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for joining. Really appreciate it.
Welcome. See you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
And then once we're on that next level of beating our own personal best, that's when it starts to feel really good, because you understand the system. It's totally automatic. And then every single conversation that you're having, it's never a surprise. It's never random how you do it, but it's very clear in your mind why what you did was effective. Lovely. So I'd love to know, what is your process now moving forward with your team members? I know for Alex, we talked about this the other day. You've got those one-on-one conversations. How are you going to bring the TOCOCA model into your business?
Definitely I know I've got to get better in asking those questions, specifically about what would be an outstanding outcome and those kind of things. I definitely know this is something I have to practice more to get better results out of the meetings. I mean, I just recently started. I feel like they have changed a lot, but I know there is still much more potential I can get out of my employees if I'm asking the right questions, and also with the close the loop to myself be strict enough to that I set deadlines and follow up, and then close that loop to check in with them hey, is there anything I can help you if they're not coming back automatically and things like that.
Yeah, awesome. And I know it's a lot to take on board, and I know how fast you're growing within your position as a leader and allowing yourself time, because these things are built over little micro moments of the awareness. And I think it's so fantastic what you're doing, Alex. I really, really love how you're showing up for your team.
Yeah, thank you for the support.
You're welcome. Champion you all the way. And Kylie, share with me, how are you going to use this to keep those ruly boys on track?
Well, actually, I was thinking it's probably going to be good to set clearer expectations, I think, for them, so that they know what we expect, and to do that in a clear and concise way with them, and build that trust, I guess. Yeah.
Beautiful. And what just came to my mind as well, and correct me if I'm wrong, Tim, but I feel that men as well, sometimes they don't know what is wrong, but they feel that something is wrong, whereas as women tend to articulate it more. But that clarity and being able to give them that certainty will help them to not have that challenge of like, why am I so disgruntled? Oh, it's because I don't have enough information. And that clarity will just be a lot more effortless within those conversations.
Yeah, I agree. That's something I've get quite frustrated with at times. For myself, not frustrated with others, with myself. It's like, yeah, just don't quite know how to overcome the problem or fix it. Break it down into bite-sized chunks, I suppose, is what I need to do to enable those conversations a little easier.
Yeah, totally. Well done, Kali. I really love that you're able to bring this and have that ability to know where it is that you can continue to grow yourself as a leader, and in every conversation have a bit of a benchmark there to know what went well and what didn't, and probably why now. Yeah, amazing. And Tim, how are you going to bring this into Premier Insulation more?
Here's that blank bit. I think in my mind, asking myself some questions first around the trust agenda, the challenges and so forth, and not trying to construct the conversation, of course, beforehand, but just having a little bit of an idea of where I'm heading with it, and some of the questions that I can ask to be curious and asking open-ended questions, not just simple yes, no answer questions.
Yeah, well, we've talked about that before, haven't we, Tim? Just having that, people, if you give them an excuse to not engage, they won't. But the more questions you can ask, and that open-ended questions, how they will start to learn that that's the norm, and therefore will start contributing more to those conversations, and therefore your company.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I'd love to share with you an opportunity for you to practice these conversations with me. It's a leadership breakthrough call. It's a 1-hour call, totally free. We'd really love to just be able to support you in taking that next step for these conversations to become a little bit more natural, and to identify what are some of the challenges that you have in having this conversation with somebody, and we can unpack that a little bit more so that you can go out into the workforce with clarity, and also having practiced it, that confidence to know that you are nailing those conversations. Does that sound like a really cool thing to do?
100%.
Amazing. Well, what I'll do is I'll flick you an email after this with my booking link for that call, and it'll be a 1-hour call, and allowing you to put this into play. But not only that, give me feedback on how it is that you're experiencing this message, because I'd really love to know from you how you took this learning on board, and if there's anything that I can add that might make it easier for you to learn. And I'm really open I'll give you feedback on your feedback, and you can give me my feedback on my feedback. There we go.
Love it.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, everyone. And I'll share the full recording of this as well if you want to go back and revisit parts of this just to refresh your mind. Also, more than happy to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Danny.
Beautiful. Happy Thursday, and we'll see you all really soon.
Yes, yeah. Have a good rest of the week.
See you.
Guys. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Danny.
See you
Bye.
guys. Bye.